Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. And I have returned once again. Oh, let me just let me just get that right. You're looking into my gob. You're not dentists, are you? Hello, how do you do? Just move slightly so I don't turn into a big bright silhouette. But yeah, I'm back in South Park, the Dreaming Spires. I said Dreaming Saucers there. The Dreaming Spires view that you're all so familiar with in the movies and things like that. And I've returned to this park, finished work for the day. I'm not as tired as I was yesterday because it has been very hot here. There's actually a heat wave going on at the moment here in England, and it's absolutely boiling hot at the moment. It's about 4 p.m, so it's about the peak of the heat wave right about now, and it's I think 32 degrees. It is quite high, 90 something Fahrenheit. And by the way, if any of you are waiting for a video about Freedom Day, you're not going to get one. I've written an article on Panwo Voice, which I posted yesterday. So go to panwo-voice.blogspot.com, you'll read it there. Everything about Freedom Day is on there. I've come back here for a very, very different reason. This is a part 2, an update on a video I did previously a couple of months ago. And I've come back to the same location, which might give you a clue about what it's about. This is a video, it's an update on the Sarah Everard situation, because the case is kind of wound down now, and excuse me, the case is kind of wound down now, and I wasn't originally going to cover it anymore, but something unexpected has happened. And this happens quite a lot actually in cases like this, like the ones I've just described, including with all the suspicious elements that I mentioned in the previous video. If you haven't actually watched what happened to Sarah Everard, then please do go to the link in the description box and watch it, because it'll give you a lot of background. You'll get a lot more out of this video than you would otherwise. But it's a strange turn of affairs. In criminal cases where there is a suspicious element of the type I'm talking about, very often there's arrests are made, investigations begin, and then they stop. There's no trial, there's no conviction, there's no imprisonment. It's a kind of it's like the case is closed for another reason. Now very often it's because the suspect dies. Classic case of course is Jeffrey Epstein. In this case it's slightly different, because it was at the back of my mind that something would happen like this, because I said in the previous video that Wayne Couzens, the suspect, may well commit suicide in jail, or at least that's the story we would have been told, that he committed suicide in jail. As it happens, you know, when he appeared in court remotely, it was during the lockdown, he had injuries to his head which indicated either he had tried to harm himself or others had tried to harm him. This happened on 2 occasions. Now, what happened was that there was going to be a trial in October. It was originally set for October, but then on the 8th of June he pleaded guilty, not to the murder. He pleaded guilty to the kidnap and rape. He said that he had kidnapped her and raped her. This is the first time that rape had been mentioned. It was never actually discussed that there was a sexual element to the crime before. But then on the 9th of July, he then confessed to the murder. He confessed to strangling Sarah Everard after raping her. And as a result, all that's left now is the sentencing, which will probably happen in the next couple of months. And he'll receive a life sentence, certainly. The odd thing, he said something very strange. He said, I don't know if you can hear me, there might be a bit of wind on the mic, but I'll speak up if there's a bit of wind on the mic. He said that he expressed a lot of remorse and regret, and he said, I'll have to live with what I've done for the rest of my life. Now, I question that. Firstly, whether he actually said that or not, but also if he did say it, whether it was his own words, whether he was expressing a sincere opinion that he originated from him himself, or whether he was just reading a script. Because a psychopath wouldn't say that, yet to commit a crime that he committed, you'd have to be a psychopath. You'd have to be. A non-psychopath couldn't commit a crime like that. I think it fits in, you see, I think it fits in with what he said, and some of the other elements of the crime fit in with the narrative that has been spun around this. As I explained in the first video, there's two very disturbing elements to this film, to this particular case. There's two very disturbing elements. One is the politicization of this crime for the feminist agenda, and what his confession, or not his confession, but also his expression of remorse, the fact that he did make a statement saying, "I did a terrible thing, I'm going to have to live with it for the rest of my life," fits in with that feminist narrative, the one that I describe, that's disturbed me enormously in the first video. I'll go into more details in the first video about that. Because the feminist narrative is that all Wayne Couzens did was what all white men would do if they could. Basically, all white men are sexual sadists. The only reason they don't act on it is because sometimes they manage to just about keep control of it, or that the threat of the fear of being caught and imprisoned, and that Wayne Couzens basically failed to keep control of this natural side of his white male nature, and raped and murdered her, kidnapped a young woman to rape her and murder her. That, of course, like everything feminists say, is false. But it fits in. It fits in with the narrative. It's just another one of these horrible, really nasty, cruel ways that this crime has been exploited by people with an agenda to warp the minds of the population. And as Morgoth said, you know, the only reason that it's essentially presented itself an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have taken up, simply because the suspect was white, because he was a white man. If he hadn't been a white man, you wouldn't have anything like this kind of outburst of public rage that you saw. And as I explained, you had these horrible, you had that disgusting old cow Baroness Jones in the House of Lords, suggesting there should be a curfew for men. And when she says men, of course she means white men. Then she said, "Oh no, I was only kidding." Later on she said it was a hyperbole. She was just making, she was exaggerating to make a point. That's what hyperbole is. But this just shows you how effective this kind of propaganda is on people's minds, how effective it is, especially on the political classes, or how the political classes go along with it. Mark Drakeford, he wasn't the only one, incidentally. Mark Drakeford, the First Minister of Wales, referred to Baroness Jones's words from the House of Lords. And he said, yeah, maybe my goodness me, he's the worst person to rule Wales since Henry III, that guy, he really is. Oh yeah, maybe it's not such a bad idea, you know, make sure keep all men indoors after 6 p.m. or stuff like that. And then, it's just... And then somebody said, "Oh, actually, you know, Baroness." Then someone in the studio pointed out that Baroness Jones was just kidding. She didn't actually mean what she said. I think it's a pretty sick joke, but she didn't actually. She wasn't seriously suggesting a curfew for men. And then he goes, "Oh, really? Oh, you mean she didn't? You mean she didn't actually mean it? Oh, silly me. There was I drafting a bill." Do you feel the same chill that I do? That some daft old biddy, some Green Party hack for the House of Lords can make a very, very distasteful hyperbolous joke, and other politicians take it seriously. They assume she was being serious and actually think to themselves, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Honestly, man, that is revolting. It's outrageous, and it's frightening that it's taken seriously. It's frightening that it's even the mere suggestion of it is taken seriously, even if only for a short time, before the news goes out that the originator of the trick wasn't actually suggesting it seriously. Who knows where that could lead? So yeah, I'll go into more details in the first film in this series, but basically, it's the cultural Marxist feminist agenda has been accelerated. It's been accelerated and has been boosted by this crime. And if any feminists are watching that and you feel offended by what I've said about this, then good. Because this is something you should feel very ashamed of. You are grave robbers. You are sucking on the bones of this young woman. You are rubbing deep down. All these people they are actually rubbing their hands with glee that this happened, including some of the people who are protesting up on Clapham Common, which the police broke up. I don't support actually the police breaking up. I don't support the police breaking up a protest at all. I mean, I think that people should be allowed to protest, even some horrible feminist hate week organisers, you know, as Niall Murphy said, you know, through an opaque lens. You know, yesterday there were 150 genders, and now there's just 2 genders: women and murderers. But we have to return to the other major conundrum, the other very, very serious anomaly to do with this case, which is even more serious and even more alarming and even more disgusting. I go back to what I said before. I suspect that this was a procurement gone wrong. What happened was, I'll tell you, Wayne Couzens, before he was arrested and everyone knew about this crime, I suspect what happened was, and I explain more in detail in the first film. It's linked in the description box. I've already said that, haven't I? This was a procurement. Wayne Couzens, as an officer in the elite Metropolitan Police Diplomatic Protection Command, is exactly the kind of person who'd be used for operations like this. Because sadly, you know, what you see in films like The Hostel and The Hostel 2 and things like that is, I think, real. In fact, the people who made the first Hostel film, I don't know about the second one, they said that they based the idea for a movie on something someone had told them, which they took seriously. That is, that very, very rich and powerful people in this world, some of them who have the natural inclination to do that, who are sadistic psychopaths, and have the resources, and within the elite, organise situations where they get to carry out their fantasies, or their sadistic fantasies on other people, by capturing them. Cathy O'Brien wrote about this, about The Most Dangerous Game, where basically the elite have hunting parties where they ride on horseback and things like that, and they carry rifles and they hunt down young army recruits. You think it's not true? Well, no one's ever sued Cathy. She accuses 140 people of these crimes. No one's ever sued her. That book's still in print. And that's what I suspect happened. I suspect what was meant to happen, Wayne Couzens, somebody ordered Sarah Everard. I mean, they stress very carefully in the news reports that Wayne Couzens and Sarah Everard did not actually know each other before the murder, that she was a stranger to him. Quite possibly he didn't, but I think he knew who she was. They don't exactly how it happened, but you see, what I believe happened was that she was ordered and he was told to go out and get her, capture her and bring her to the person who ordered her to suffer whatever horrible fate awaited her at his or her hands. And I mean, I've watched the film The Hostel and The Hostel 2. The Hostel 2, of course, has that very controversial scene where they hang the girl upside down. I had to switch it off at that point, you know, and I'm an ex-hospital porter. I don't gross out easily. Wayne Couzens, a few days before the murder, he ordered a white Vauxhall Astra hire car from a rental car firm in Dover, which is near where he lived. He lived in Deal, Kent, just up the road from Dover. He lived in a house with his wife, and he travelled to London every day for work as a commuter. He also ordered several other things: a roll of gaffer tape, a builder's rubble bag, and some cleaning fluid. Now, the cleaning fluid is something quite interesting. This is where it gets a bit suspicious, because the story then goes that he drove the car into London, just cruised around the streets randomly looking for a suitable victim. When he found her, he persuaded her to get into the car. He may have used his police ID to say, "I'm a police officer, I need to take you somewhere right now," and she would have said, "Okay, he's a copper," got in the car, which is when then he carried out the crime, rape and murder. He then apparently disposed of the body. He disposed of the body in the rubble bag, and then returned the car. Now they say that he did two things which I think are strange. He cleaned the car very carefully. Now he bought some valeting fluid specifically for this purpose because, well, apologies for being graphic, but there would have been like blood everywhere and things like that in the car, and he wanted to wash that off. He also deleted all the data from his phone related to the car hire and all the other things he bought. Now this is where it gets a bit odd, because as a police officer that's a kind of amateurish thing to do, because the forensic investigators the police have would be able to find things like the remains of bloodstains in the car, even if no matter how much you attempt to wash it off. The methods that they use in terms of forensic analysis, they would be able to find some of it left. You couldn't wash all of it off ever, to the extent which you could cover up the crime. Same with deleting data from your phone. It can be recovered. Data deleted from a mobile phone or from your computer can be recovered by electronics forensic analysis. That is, they take your hard drive, they take your SIM card, and they run special programs through it to retrieve deleted data. Now, Wayne Couzens would have known that. He would have known on both counts that that's not a way to cover up the crime. It would have been not possible to cover up the crime using those methods. So it's a bit strange that he did that. It's very strange that he used this kind of method that, as I said, an amateur, somebody who had no idea how police investigations worked, would use. So that, I think, that sounds like a contrived story, quite frankly. Now, in one of the reports, there's something a bit strange. There's like a timeline report. It's only a little 2-minute clip. You can probably find it on YouTube. I won't put a link or anything there. You can just find it. But it says how the Sarah Everard murder unfolded, and it includes just a timeline of everything that happened, plus a Google Earth analysis of where Sarah walked. No one knows exactly where she was seized by Couzens, but she walked across Clapham Common. She lived in Brixton. She walked from this place where she visited a friend's house. She spoke to her boyfriend on the phone. It was her boyfriend actually who reported her missing the following morning. It says here at 9:35 p.m. This is very odd. On Poindus Road in South London, a white Vauxhall Astra was spotted by a bus camera, just like a bus CCTV. It was just caught out the corner of the lens. But what's odd is 2 figures were seen standing beside it. 2 figures, not 1, 2. Now that one, it could be that they are basically, that is Wayne Couzens and Sarah Everard. It could be that there were those 2, or it could be Wayne Couzens. It could be someone else, an accomplice. Just remember that someone else, a 35-year-old woman, was arrested along with Wayne Couzens. It may have been his wife, I don't know. At the same time, later released without charge. Wayne was not the only one actually arrested that day. What was meant to happen, I think, was that Wayne Couzens was meant to snatch Sarah Everard, like I say, take her to whatever horrible fate awaited her. We would never have known about it. She'd have been listed as a missing person, and there'd be posters put up around the area for a few weeks, and then it would be forgotten. Because unfortunately, a lot of people go missing. It's not children especially go missing. Children and teenagers, and it appears that children and teenagers are the people most likely to be used in these unspeakable acts, which I won't even bring myself to describe, which the elite are alleged to carry out. Some of the ones that go missing, I think, end up being used in these crimes, and they are crimes, and I just wish it wasn't happening. I think it is. Hope you can still hear me. There's a lot of wind now. I'll speak up. Let me see if I can change the camera angle slightly. All right. How's that? What I think might have happened, I'm going to move over here actually, so maybe try and get out the wind a bit. What I think might have happened with the confession, because as I said earlier, something went wrong with the process. Maybe a street CCTV camera was left on when it shouldn't have been. So the officers at the CCTV control saw the kidnap take place, and suddenly that was it. The secrecy of the operation was broken, and they were left with a really tricky situation. They were left with a very tricky situation where they had a murder that was not. They had basically a load of people who knew what had happened was not meant to know what happened. So what are they going to do? What were they going to do? They decided, obviously, to paint this as just as a random killing, a guy completely for his own purposes, capturing and killing a young woman, as sadly this does happen, for personal motives alone, not part of any conspiracy, not part of any procurement operation. And this is what they were going to do. They were going to basically just... Couzens was thrown to the wolves, like I said, as procurers like that will be. In situations like that, where the secrecy of the operation is threatened, the person who, the elitist who ordered Sarah Everard is going to be perfectly safe. The procurer, who may be paid very handsomely for his horrible deeds as being a part of this, will be thrown under the bus. They will be the one who takes the rap. They'll be the fall guy. Now, it's possible that with Couzens, the fact that he confessed may have been part of a deal. He may have been threatened actually with being suicided. What's that phrase the CIA use? We will kill yourself in jail, or you can confess to it and do. We'll come out with this cock and bull story about what you did. You can confess and also say, which of course is a lie, how sorry you are you did it. I mean, Wayne Couzens has to be a psychopath to do what he did, whether the official story is true, which I doubt, as I said, or that let me turn around a little bit, there we are, that's a bit better, or that, as I said, this was a procurement gone wrong. This may be, whichever it was, and I think it's the latter, Wayne Couzens would have to be a psychopath to be involved with it. He would have to be. But they said, just come out with this cock and bull story, confess, say you're very sorry, just say, oh, I just decided to go out and kill this woman, I planned it in advance, got a hire car, decided to clean the car with cleaning fluid, deleted my phone afterwards, like some kind of rank amateur, and I'll go to jail for the rest of my life. He may have been told to confess as an alternative to being suicided. Or it is possible that he will be removed from jail at some point. It's possible that he will be maybe reassigned. It's possible that he will be reassigned within the secret elite to do other duties. Possibly he's done a deal with somebody, which means he has to take on more duties because they'll say, well, look, we got you out of jail. Something like that. I don't know. I'm speculating here. But that could be what's happened. But as far as the society is now concerned, the case is closed. There'll be no trial. There'll be a sentencing hearing, and that'll be it. And obviously, it'll be a life sentence. It probably will get very little news attention. And we'll never know exactly what happened. We'll never know who really was behind the murder of Sarah Everard. Or will we? Because the idea that this is just covered up, it's like I said, that this just carries on and no one knows anything more about it, is unbearable, which is why I'm making these two films. So that at some point something will happen. Somehow, if something I do, something I say, will put an end to this, and I don't know what else to do. I don't know who these elitists are. I don't know. I can't go and report them to the police. I can't go and arrest them myself. They're surrounded by bodyguards. I don't have the evidence. The evidence is always covered up by the police and by whatever's within the elite network, wherever these things happen on private estates. I just wish it wasn't happening. I look at Sarah Everard's, there's photos of her, she's a pretty young woman, and just a few years older than, bloody helicopter, spoiling the mood. Just a few years older than my daughter. And there are, most of the victims of procurement are even younger. From what people like Cathy O'Brien and other insiders say, it tends to be children and teenagers and people younger than Sarah Everard who are favoured for these kinds of procurements. And I'd love it to stop. Who wouldn't? The only people who don't want it to stop are the psychopaths involved. The reptilians, or whatever they are, who are doing this. I don't know what I can do. That's all I can say is if you are one of these procurers, well, probably you'll be selected for being a psychopath yourself, but if there's anyone out there on the inside who knows anything and who can say something to anyone, including you can approach me, I have a public email address, just to say anything about what's going on and to put a stop to it. I want you to do that. And if there's any, surely, there must be people now in this world, people like President Donald Trump, he can't be the only one, there must be others, who have power. They have political power, they have military power, they have on their side police forces, armies, navies, air forces, who are good and want to put a stop to this. People who are more, in that case, they have more clout than I do, and I don't want to be the kind of person, because of course that's a lot of the skeptics will say, oh, you're looking for a saviour, Ben. You're looking for a saviour, Ben. Yes, I am. I'll admit that, because what the hell can I do? What the hell can we do, ordinary people? If there is someone like Trump or someone else who has that power, please do it soon, because I believe that, as I said before, I think President Trump's going to come back. Please, Mr. President, come back soon. Or if anyone else out there who has the power to put a stop to this, please do it. Please do it. Please expose this, what's going on. I think the truth about Sarah Everard has to come out, and not just her, all the other people who are in her position that we've never known about, we've never found out about, because in those cases the procurement went properly. Looks like someone's got a cockerel nearby. I don't know how much more of this I can bear, I really don't. But someone's going to think of a biblical reference. Before the cock crows 3 times, yeah. No, I don't deny knowing President Trump. I won't deny President Trump. No, I don't. If one day it will come out. I hope I live to see it, and we'll know about this. It's going to be a horrible experience. You'll see people weeping in the streets, but it's got to come out. We've got to find out the truth. We've got to integrate the horror that's happened, and then we can move forward as a free planet where this kind of evil doesn't go on, and we can begin to heal from what's been subjected to us over the thousands of years of Illuminati rule. Right, this will be my last video, I think, probably for a few days, because I'm going off to Awake and Aware. I'm actually speaking on the Thursday now. That's the day after tomorrow, not the Friday. But I do hope you can get to that, Wake and Aware, High Elms Manor. I'll be there if you want to see me there. And I'll be doing a reportage. That'll probably be my next video, which will probably come out sometime in the weekend. Thank you for watching Her Panwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.